Welcome to another edition of our Impact Life series. You all are welcome. Once again, my name is Ify Oluko. I'm the brand and communications manager at Impact World Leadership Initiative, and I'm going to be moderating today's session. We have a wonderful speaker, and I think you all have even opportunity to have a double dose of both the leadership training conference as well as the Impact Life series. And this topic is also very relevant because it's also coming at a time when we're discussing understanding leadership and the hierarchy structure. And so our facilitator this evening is going to go into great detail on how to lead with your mind. She is someone I've also known over the years, and her sessions are always very insightful. I think she has joined us. I'm going to bring her up shortly and then introduce her, properly. But I want you all to open up your mind, be ready to learn, unlearn, and relearn. I hope you all can hear me. I'd like to see you. I'd like to see your comments. I want excitement in the house. You know what the the spirit you have at Impact World Leadership Initiative. So give me a high five, wave, say something. I want to see your comments. I want to be sure that we're ready for a speaker tonight or this evening. So once again, thank you for joining us on today's episode. So I'm going to go right into, what we have.
I'm not saying now.
For you. Priscilla, are you ready for us? So I can quickly go into your introduction and bring you up. So the Impact Life series started about 8 weeks ago. We've had several episodes. We've had the likes of Mrs. Bayekusi, we've had Bridget Eleshi, we've had Remy Dairo, we've had Binga Ojumiji. We've had quite a number of facilitators on our Impact Life series, and they've been pouring to us, back to back. And today, our speaker is no other person than Priscilla Benjamin-Olaoye. She's a mental fitness expert of over a decade and the lead therapist at Waterbrook Clarity Solutions. She has led many intervention efforts in helping people find their higher self and rise above complex behavioral issues that undermine human performance in the workplace. Priscilla is the founder of the Peak Network, which is a mental health awareness initiative that brings mental health awareness to over 20 million people using diverse platforms. She has successfully launched a specialized school-based mental health as well as a radio host. By the time you hear her voice, she has this very sweet, sonorous voice, that usually, that serenades souls on, and then brings healing to life on radio. She's also the host of the foremost mental health program, Your Mind and You with Priscilla. She will be looking at part of the key concepts she's going to be discussing tonight, framing your internal environment, resilience, and self-regulation. Thank you, Priscilla, for coming to share with us tonight. We're super, super delighted to have you.
I'm super delighted to be here. Thank you, Ify.
Can I jump up, please? Okay.
Thank you for having me. Can everybody hear me?
Please check if you're muted.
Right. I've been unmuted.
Oh, we can't hear you. Please check if you're muted.
I have been unmuted, I think.
No, we can't hear you.
You can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear
My
you,
mic,
Priscilla. Your mic is unmuted, and
yes,
I
it's
can hear
it's
you.
unmuted, so you should be able to hear me.
I can hear you.
If you kindly check your network connection.
You're welcome, Inara. Nice to have you.
If it's my network connection, I doubt if I have any challenge with network. Except I have
Okay,
to.
we can hear you now.
Oh, okay. So that's better, isn't it?
Yes.
So everybody can see me and everybody can hear me.
Yes.
Fantastic. So because of our time, I might just have to dig in so that we get started, right?
Yes, we can.
It's a great pleasure being here. Thank you, Ify, for having me, and thank you to Impact Your World Leadership for giving me the opportunity to share with young minds at this time. My name again is Priscilla Benjamin-Olaoye, and I am a mental health expert. I have been practicing for over 14 years, and I have the privilege of establishing a preventive mental health network called the PIC Network, where we basically teach people lifestyle modification, or we teach them lifestyle choices that promotes mental wellness. I know a lot of people oftentimes would run away when they hear the word mental. So but honestly speaking, I was at an event some years ago, and I was sharing and discovered that the speaker, so if we know the TED Talk kind of thing, so it was that kind of event. And the moderator read my profile, and as she was reading my profile, she muttered under her breath, and she said, this thing that, this profile is sounding like, something like Kolo. She said it in her native language. And that, that just shows how much ignorance is surrounded with the message of mental health, or things that do exist in the kind of world that I have chosen as a career path. So when I was being invited to come share on this platform, I was excited to take the topic leading from the mind. And honestly speaking, I love to say this again and again, that the concept of leadership is more practical than it is philosophical. And of course, as a mental health expert, you would not be surprised that I want to take a look at leadership from your mental wellness, or from the place of your mental well-being, or from the place of inside out. I love this quote that I started with. I said, in this startup coach, I said, there is nothing more noble in being superior to your fellow man. True nobility lies in being superior to your former self. And there is nothing more truer than that. I would today like to start by sharing with you what my key concepts would be as to what I'm going to be sharing with you. So today, I would love to take a look at the internal environment versus the external environment, the world that you live in, and how that does impact on your mental well-being. And however, your capacity to understand that your internal environment, okay, determines eventually what goes on the outside. I would also like to explore the concept of resilience. I would define it and then talk about the tools required for resilience. I also want to talk today about another interesting key concept called the emotional sandbag. We know the sandbags, right? We'll get to that in a bit. And the inner aggressor, or what we call the internal bully. When I have to talk to young people, when I have to talk to people who understand the concept of leadership, knowing, of course, that leadership is not position, leadership has nothing to do with you having a title. When I have to, so we are all leaders, right? Because we must start from the place of self-leadership. You cannot lead someone else when you have not led yourself. And that's what initiated the topic for today. We're saying that picking up the concept of self-leadership, you have to begin to lead yourself first. You should be able to have that internal locus of control before you desire to influence another human being. So when we talk about self-leadership, we're saying that what is your own internal aggressor? What is your own internal bully? There is something influencing your behavior. And looking at the concept of leadership again, we would say that your mind leads you, right? So if you have not mastered the concept of self-leadership or leading from inside, there is no way you would be able to enjoy what we call self-regulation, because self-regulation is the last concept that I'll be taking a look at today. We are, daily faced with, next slide, please. We are we're consistently faced with, I really love for the slides to just flow with me, so that as you just pick on as I go, so that every single participant is enjoying what I'm talking about. So we're daily faced. So I'm done with the key concepts. Can we just move on to the slide after the key concept, after the outline on the key concepts? So we're daily faced with our internal battles. We're daily faced with the battle of the mind. And I put here, I said, we're faced daily with a battle that we must win. And that battle is the battle for our internal bliss. Honestly speaking, you cannot enjoy internal bliss, or you cannot begin to take a hold of yourself, or take a hold of your thoughts, or take a hold of your inner bliss if you do not fight for it. And that's basically what we're saying. I remember a situation that just happened just a few minutes before I joined on live. I usually would love to use the family, which is the smallest unit. I usually would use the family as the smallest unit to discuss this concept of self-leadership. So we expect that, for example, in the home, a spouse would listen to the other person. We expect that the parent would listen to the children will listen to the parents. This is the smallest unit of that we can easily bring to bear. However, there is a place where the husband and the wife are trying to share powers or share authority, especially when it comes to the children. Permit me to use this domestic example. So you oftentimes hear a lot of marriages breaking down, or a lot of dysfunctionality in this small unit. Why? Because one party is consistently not sharing leadership with the other party, or one party is desiring to dominate the other person. So there naturally is a breakdown. I have to use this example because of what I'm trying to say. If you do not understand the concept of self-leadership, where within your own unit, so you see, I talked about the family as a unit. So now this is your own unit, your mind, your body, your behavior. So we say that actions are a product of one's thoughts, and thoughts come as a product of your as an accumulation of via your organs of perception. So you cannot begin to lead this unit if you are not, giving yourself the permission with what you choose to embrace or what you choose to put aside. So there is this consistent battle going on, and there would naturally be a breakdown if you are not in that place where you are saying to yourself that I am taking responsibility. Going back to the family, using that example, there is usually a breakdown in the family unit when one party is trying to dominate the other person and is not giving the other person the opportunity to either express or give opinion, or at least listen to their own perspective about things, naturally that home would break up. That is the way it is, with self-leadership. That's the way it is with you. So I'm saying at this point that if you do not begin to take responsibility for yourself, for your mind, and your ability to be in charge of this before desiring, okay, to influence another person, that is the beginning of failure. But in doing that, you have to you have to bring yourself to, there is a battle that is consistently going on in my mind, and that's the battle for internal bliss. When there is a lot of chaos, so I was sharing with Ify offline before we started that we oftentimes say that, oh, I have, so say for example, as president of your own club in your school, you're saying to yourself, oh, why is it that members of the executive to me, why is it that they are not paying attention to what it is I want to do? Why is it that they are always antagonizing me at meetings? Now, your ability to handle the situation is solely dependent on you winning here first. You see, so that's where the concept of self-leadership comes to bear. You have to start with leading yourself. You have to start with understanding that leadership is not philosophical. It's not about the things you can quote. It's not about the charisma in some sense. Yes, these are tools in being endearing, but it's about understanding exactly what you are doing and where you want to be. So there is that constant battle in your mind. Should I be aggressive? Should I be calm? Should I communicate clearly? Should I lose my guard? If you lose this internal battle, then you will lose. That's just the bottom line. So your leadership starts from within. I would love to say this, and that is also reading from my start quote. I said there is nothing noble about being superior to your fellow men. Lies in being superior to your former self. So when we say leading from the mind, you have to start from that standpoint that says that I am not in competition with my team members. I am only in competition with my former self. That's where true mobility lies. It's being superior to your former self. So leading from within, or the concept of self-leadership, is not putting yourself in a position where you think you are better than the people you're leading. I know that we say this all of the time, but there is a huge disparity between what we know and what we do. So there is a huge gap between what we know we should be doing and what we are actually doing. So if you have to embrace this concept of self-leadership and leading from the mind, you have to say to yourself, the daily battles that goes on in my mind, I must win the battle of internal bliss. 1, 2, I must win the battle of being a better version of where my mind is yesterday. Now, I oftentimes say this, that for a problem to be solved, there has to be a shift in the level of thinking that you had when the problem was created. And that saying what that saying basically means is that you cannot solve a problem at the level of thinking you have. You know when you say to yourself that, oh, if that person knows better, he will do better. That's exactly what I'm saying. So for you to do better, you must be better than your former self. And this is the constant battle that we're faced with every day. So what is that first tool that I want to teach you today? For you to begin to win from within. The first tool that I want to teach you is the tool of resilience. Now, I love the way Hartman defines resilience. He says it is the capacity for an individual to be able to prepare for, to be able to recover from, and adapt to stress, adversity, or challenge. So a lot of times when we hear the word resilience, don't forget, I want you to put at the back of your mind that we're talking about leading from within, the power and the path to mental and emotional wholeness or wellness. So if you as an individual, when you hear the word, say again and again, is that if I ask, for example, it was a physical class, or I ask you to unmute your mic and tell me what resilience means, I'm sure a lot of people would say, oh, it's the capacity to bounce back. No, resilience is much more than that. And why am I bringing the concept of resilience to you leaders today, or to us leaders? Because as I teach, I'm learning as well. And why am I bringing this concept, first of all, to saying that without resilience, you cannot rule, you cannot lead from within, or you cannot be in that place of self-leadership? That's because for you to grow, you must choose one thought over the other. You see, so it takes some level of tenacity for you to discipline yourself and say, you know what, this thought does not make me the kind of leader I want to be to myself before I am that kind of leader to someone else. So the resilience is not about bouncing back. Resilience, according to Hartman, is that you're able to prepare for stress. You're able to prepare for adversity. You're able to prepare for challenge. And when a lot of us fail at leadership because we have failed the test of preparing for adversity. So before a meeting happens, you know it's going to be a high energy meeting. There is the preparation in your mind that you're going to remain calm, irrespective of what happens. If you have not won this battle from within, naturally, when you go into that meeting and you meet any form of anyone antagonizing your ideas, or anyone saying, no, we do not agree with you, you will find yourself flying off the handle. You will find yourself losing your cool. You will find yourself implementing techniques that do not work in leadership, like manipulation, like divide and rule, you see? So that's why you have to, you have to be resilient. And resilience is preparing for adversity, preparing for stress, preparing for challenges, knowing that. So a resilient person says that life is not always all rosy. Someone who is engaging in self-leadership is saying that I know that being a leader, comes with a lot of challenges, and I am going to prepare my mind that I am going to go to this war to win. No one goes to war expecting to lose. We all go to war with the mindset of winning. So if you knew that you are not going to win as a leader, there's no point in the world. You see why you must have resilience. So the first concept in resilience is preparation, and I'm going to talk about that as we go on. The second concept I'll talk about is recovery. Recovering from anxiety, recovering from adversity, recovering from stress, or recovering from challenge. And the last concept I'll talk about is adaptation. But let me just quickly say this, and I explained it on the next slide. I said that when you say that you're resilient you're resilient, what solution are you looking for? You're looking for solution against stress. You're looking for solution against overwhelm. You're looking for solution against burnout. You're looking for solution against your job stress, because it's a job. Even if it's a non-paying job, it is a job. You're looking for solution against anxiety. You're looking for a solution against low energy. So these are solutions that you're looking for, and this is what resilience would bring for you. What are the domains of resilience? Basically, if you want to take a look at it, it's usually next slide, please. We usually would put this in 4 boxes. So we'll say that a resilient person is physically. So don't forget, when I talked about the definition of resilience, your capacity to prepare, recover, and adapt. Just put these three things in mind as I talk about resilience. So for you to be a resilient person, it means that physically, in your physical flexibility, in your endurance, in your strength, physically, you have the capacity to prepare for adversity. You have the capacity to recover from adversity or challenges or stress, and you have the capacity to adapt, all right, to adversity or stress. Mentally, you are someone with a lot of mental flexibility. You're someone with an attention span that is able to pull through, all right? You're someone with the ability to focus. So when I talk about focus, I'm saying that you're not focusing on yourself as a leader. To be able to, to be able to pull off being resilient or leading from within, you are focusing on the challenge at hand. And let me explain this. We fly off the handle, and you would understand that on the emotional plane. We fly off the handle a lot of times when we're faced with difficult challenges because we have not been able to train our minds to stay emotionally calm when we are supposed to handle emotions that seem overwhelming. So what pulls you through that situation is when, say for example, someone disagrees, say you're preparing for maybe your national conference or your chapter conference or whatever it is, and you're bringing up ideas and somebody says, no, that cannot work. We have people like that on the team, right? There are those who would never see anything working. So you're with that kind of team member and you're saying to yourself, why does this person think like this? Thought number one for defeat. Number two, you're saying to yourself, this person is just so difficult. Thought number two. So you see, rather than focus on the work at hand, you are focusing on that person's behavior. A mentally resilient person focuses on what is important. You do not focus on the way someone passes a message or the way someone, or someone's disposition towards you. A mentally resilient person or someone who is embracing the concept of self-leadership does not focus on those little petty things. They're able to focus on what is important. They're able to incorporate multiple points of view. So mentally, that is you being resilient, preparing, adapting, and recovering from challenges. That's the tool for you. Another domain of resilience is emotional. I've talked about it. And lastly, the spiritual. Honestly, I love to talk about the spiritual because I remember doing an extensive work. I have a 3-part CD called Minecraft. And in Minecraft, I taught extensively on mastering the art of mental detoxification. I will talk about that as I talk about the sandbags as we go on. And, honestly, the spiritual domain is whatever spiritual means to you. It's being able to be in that place where, you are that flexible, you're paying attention to what you're thinking about. You're paying attention to your own journey, your own personal journey. You're paying attention to how much you're not laying the blame on other people for what's going on with you. Exactly. That's how, a resilient person. Let's quickly take a look at this resilient tools. First is your capacity to connect. Yeah, the capacity to connect with other people. And I cannot but talk about this, when it comes to self-leadership or leading from within or leading from the mind. We pay attention to our social media followership. We pay attention to people who are following us on social media. We pay attention to the number of friends we have. We pay attention to the number of people on our team who is saying yes to our ideas, or who is constantly agreeing with us, or who is constantly tolerating our excesses. But guess what? We are growing in numbers, but very shallow in depth. So when I say growing in numbers, but you're looking at the number of friends that you have around you. You're looking at the number of people you have around you that are supporting you. Is not in the number. So the first resilient tool is the connection. Connect. Seek true connection. And I remember talking about this yesterday. You cannot want to be leading from within and you do not even have the capacity to connect genuinely with the people who are with you in the same team, or for the people who you're choosing to lead. You will find out that you are experiencing what we call a loneliness. A loneliness is when you feel lonely despite being surrounded by people. That's because, so you find us trying to look for the number of people who would follow us. You see us trying to look for the numbers and all of that. Yes, that would produce dopamine, right? Or the endorphins, the feel-good hormones. It gives you that transient feeling of being happy. But you see that it does not last long, because what you need is the oxytocin. The oxytocin is the hormone for bonding. The better you're able to connect with people, the more you produce oxytocin and the better you feel as a human being. How are you able to do this, basically? Research has found out that the people who, after a challenge, sever relationships from others and say that, you know what, I'm going to go my way, you go your way. These people have lower chances of being emotionally mature. These people have lower chances of being emotionally happy. So when I say connect, I'm saying that choose to be that person who would always repair the breach, because it's a type of self-care. Leading from within means that you want to be in that place of internal bliss and internal joy and happiness, such that you are happy enough to be able to give happiness, joy, love, and deep connection to other people. If you've not done it within yourself, you can't do it with other people. We look at people in terms of behavior. So you say, oh, why is this person such a difficult person on the team? When you see someone who is consistently difficult, when you see someone who is consistently rude, when you see someone who is consistently seemingly unreasonable, that's because that person has so many internal battles that has not been sorted out. So if you know that you want to lead from within, you must begin to seek true connection. You must begin to value things like loyalty, things like truth-telling, things like speaking truth to power, things like not being docile or, just being that person who is a yes person, someone who communicates and verbalizes what they're dissatisfied about. And I'll talk about that when I talk about emotional dumping. You sense in, you rapid reset, you're resourceful, you highlight things that you're not, that you're happy about, so that you put that in focus, and lastly, you restore. And I talked about restore and connect, almost together. So the first tool that I want to share with you today is the tool of prevention. Next slide, please. In preparing, being in that preparative stage, right? We're saying that you're leading from within. We're saying that you're daily checking your sandbags. Next slide, please. You're daily checking your sandbags. So what really are emotional sandbags? And I always talk about the fact that issues that we're dealing with outside of what's going on, aside what's going on with. The truth of the matter is that the earlier, next slide please, the earlier emotional sandbags, yes, the earlier you recognize what your own sandbags are, emotional sandbags, the earlier you recognize what your emotional sandbags are, the better you're able to lead yourself, the better you're able to embrace the concept of self-leadership. So I always love the definition of mental wellness. It says that it's the capacity of an individual to recognize his abilities. You're able to say that, these are the things that I'm personally struggling with. These are my limits. These are my triggers. We are all carrying these sandbags around because we all have our childhood traumas. We all have certain words that spook us. So you say, oh, I just said to him that, shut up. And he flew off the handle. He got angry. That's because the meaning of shut up to you is not the meaning of shut up to that person you said it to. So shut up is a major trigger in this person's emotional sandbag. So someone who is ready to embrace the concept of self-leadership is that person who is saying that, what are my sandbags? I am aware of what's going on with me. What is the luggage I'm carrying? Is my sandbag full today? And remember, I talked about my product where I was teaching about dealing with emotional detoxification. Mastering the art of mental detoxification. And I said I will talk about this when I talk about the sandbags. So I love this quote a lot, and I use it all the time. it goes, so this is me tweaking Mahatma Gandhi's quote, and he says that this is my version of it. I oftentimes, open my radio shows or whatever, I would say, I may not have food to eat. I may not have clothes to wear. In fact, I may not have where to lay my head. But one thing is certain, my mind is my palace. And I will not let anyone walk through my mind with their dirty feet. Let me say that again. I may not have clothes, I may not have food to eat. I may not have clothes to wear. In fact, I may not have where to lay my head. But one thing is certain, my mind is my palace. And I will not let anyone walk through my mind with their dirty feet. So people are carrying their emotional sandbags around. And when you look at the guy in the picture, when you're carrying something heavy, what are you going to do? You will look for the closest place to just drop it so that you do not feel the pain anymore. So I'm carrying my emotional sandbags already. Another person is bringing the emotional sandbags. So when you see people naturally just dumping on us, so when you see people naturally just dumping on us, and I will talk about emotional dumping before I round up. You see people, constantly dumping on us and, sharing their toxicity with us. That's because they're carrying a lot of their sandbags, their emotional sandbags are full. So you need to know when your emotional sandbags are full so that you're not dumping on the other person. And you must also take responsibility for refusing another person to dump their emotional sandbag on you. So you must recognize the signs that usually would come up with when your emotional sandbags are getting full. Do you snap? Do you sleep less? Are you irritable? What usually will happen when your emotional sandbags are full? Some people are just quiet. They just want to be by themselves. They don't want to be with anybody else. So you must recognize what your sandbags are. All right. So you must also, be very proactive. So if you know that usually when you get hungry, you get irritable, you see, someone who is mentally resilient does what? Prepares for. So rather than waiting for you to begin to snap, go get food. But you will not do that if you do not understand the concept of self-leadership, or if you're not willing to lead from within. Let's go to recovery quickly because of our time. What's the concept of recovery? So we say that a resilient person is able to prepare for, is able to do what? Recover. So let's talk about recovery in a bit. And yes, this is where I talked about emotional dumping. Somebody who is willing, okay, to say that, yes, I know that there are challenges and then I have to recover from the challenges. What do you begin to do? You begin to separate your physical environment from your mental environment. So there could be a lot of chaos in the environment. There could be a lot going on, but you're saying that no, what is most important to me is my internal bliss, and I will choose my battles. I will choose my battles. I'm not going to go into a war that is of no use. All right. You're also taking responsibility. You're looking inward. So someone who is willing to lead from within or lead from the mind is someone who is constantly checking their contribution to a situation. Never put yourself in a position of total good or total or outright or being outrightly blameless. Someone who is supposed to recover from adversity or recover from challenges never does that. A leader who is winning from here or winning from the mind never does that. You're asking yourself, what is my contribution to this situation going on? Someone who is leading from within or leading from the mind is not one who points fingers. And when that person has to communicate, the person is never saying that, that if you had, put that register together, this would not have happened. No, that is not what someone who is embracing self-leadership does. Someone who has embraced self-leadership or is leading from a healthy place of mind is saying that, oh, this is I take responsibility for what's going on. You're not always pointing fingers, because the moment you start your conversation with, once it's finger pointing, and I say this all the time, the other person, okay, what the other person does is that he or she pulls up a defense, and then both of you begin to go back and forth. At the end of the day, you lose focus of the main conversation, right? Remember I talked about that. that mentally you're able to keep focus. You're able to say what is important. So that's usually what happens. So someone who is leading from the mind or leading from within takes responsibility. You do not, communicate in a way that pushes people away from you. You're able to, because you win nothing by winning an argument. Trust me, it is better to lose an argument and win with people than win an argument and lose with people. So someone who is leading from the mind or leading from within or has mastered the concept of self-leadership understands that people are not to be trampled upon. So you can win an argument, but then you lose with people. That is totally unnecessary. So, and honestly speaking, the more you win within, the more you win within, the better you feel. And the better you're able to influence the people that you're leading, the better you're able to achieve the goal. So it becomes a win-win situation. You have internal bliss, they are happy, you attract more resourceful people to yourself, right? And you enjoy yourself at the end of the day. This is what happens. Your internal batteries becomes recharged, all right? And let's move to the third skill, which is adaptation. Okay, no, I need to talk about emotional dumping. Next slide, please. Let's look at emotional dumping before I go to adaptation. Now, someone who emotionally dumps on other people, blames others because he says you did that. So guess what? The person who is, venting healthily does not blame other people. Someone who is emotionally dumping on other people overwhelms the other person with multiple issues. Remember what I said about focus. So you're taking one issue at a time. You cannot overwhelm the other person with multiple issues, right? Someone who is emotionally dumping on other people plays the victim, makes other people look stupid so that they could look good. Another characteristic of someone who is, emotionally dumping is someone who is always defensive, right? So he's defensive to constructive feedback and does not own up to mistakes. The person also do not respect others or listen to the other person's perspective. The person repeats an issue over and over again. That tells you someone who has not taken charge up here. The person feels very toxic. And I know that there is a very popular saying amongst us these days. We'll say bad energy, stay far away. But sometimes you don't even know when you are the bad energy. You don't even know that you are the bad energy in the room. The moment you come in, everybody stays away. That shows that you're struggling emotionally and mentally. And that's why we've chosen the topic for today. If you want to rather vent healthily or in a very healthy way, you need to take responsibility. Do not blame others. Stick to one topic and don't bring up past issues. The moment that issue is resolved, let it go. Remember I said that you are more mentally healthy when you have the capacity to repair and move on, So use the I statements, and say, oh, I feel disrespected. Don't say things like you disrespected me. No, when you say you disrespected me, the other person will try to prove a point by saying, no, I didn't do that. So you use the I feel disrespected. I feel, so this is you taking ownership about the way you feel, because you could choose not to feel that way, yeah? The person who is healthily venting owns up to mistakes and opens to constructive feedback. He or she listens and acknowledges the other person's perspective. When people around us feel heard, it shows that we also have done an internal work. When you find yourself saying again and again that, the people on this team do not like me, it's time for you to look within. It means that you have not won within. You have not won the battle, that constant battle going on again and again. So that, that battle, look at the next slide. You see the queen standing very elegantly, in the midst of all the pawns. So basically what I'm saying here is that this is you choosing your battles. This is you choosing to say that, you know what, this issue is irrelevant. What is more important are the people. My greatest resource is the people that I surround with myself, because guess what? In your weak times, because it's not all of the time you're able to stand strong. In your weak times, you will need the same people so that you're not feeling lonely. So you're recharging your battery to be able to, go into the next phase. And the next phase is adaptation, as indicated on the last slide. So adaptation, I know that my time is almost up. Adaptation is the ability, to remain calm, is to manage your reserve. So you're saying to yourself, what reserve do I have? Do I have enough energy to have this conversation? If you do not have enough energy to have that conversation, be truthful to yourself and be courageous enough to say that, I'm sorry, I would really love to have this conversation right now, but please, can we have it in tomorrow? Or can we have it in 20 minutes? Because you want to breathe first. But when you say things like, you know what, I'm talking about it right now, that is you showing. And what we do not realize is that we think that people will understand, but we don't know that we are displaying our emotional immaturity. We are displaying our traumatized side. We're displaying all of our struggles. We're displaying it to the world. And it then goes in a cyclic motion when people then begin to stay far away from us, and then we feel lonely again, you see, and then we feel all alone again. So adaptation is your capacity to manage your reserve. Understand that, oh, I want to conserve some energy right now. I honestly do not have energy. So you're able to remain calm. You're able to. And I talk about these breathing exercises. I can't overemphasize that, but because of time, I can. So it's okay to take a break. It's okay to say, you know what? I'm a bit overwhelmed right now. I can't do any of my duties. There is nothing wrong with that. You should know when to take a break. You should know when to access your arsenals. Your arsenals are your fighting tools. So my fighting tool is nature. That's the way I rejuvenate. My fighting tool, for example, is also music. My fighting tool is also silent. But I realized that sometimes we are quiet, we're not saying anything, but there is a lot of war going on mentally. And if you're not dealing with that internal war, you will see that eventually you will still, burst and mess up everything. But to win from within, you're saying that it's not just about keeping quiet, it's about me being quiet enough to put perspective into the matter. Because the moment you win with perspective, you win with all. And you see my next slide, you see two people, right, saying, okay, do this, that. So you're asking what's important at this moment. What should I do at this time? What is important? What will suffer? If I act this way, what will suffer? Take time out, take a break to leave. Take a break to decide what's important. Take a break to say, this is what I want to do. This is not what I want to do. This is what is pertinent. This is what will get messed up. And you see in my last slide, in talking about adaptation, you see the bear moving from moving from a place of plenty or the green grass, or where there is a lot of vegetation, and there is the weather is warm, everything is rosy, and this brings a clear picture to what we described about the resilient mind. So you're able to adapt. You're able to say that, oh, these same people I'm fighting right now, they were good yesterday, they were supportive, so you're able to adapt, okay? And saying to yourself, oh, things cannot be rosy all of the time. That is what an adaptive mind does. So you see in the next slide, I talked about, learning from your mistakes, understanding and accepting your own strengths and weaknesses. You have the ability to recognize your own emotions, recognize that this is what I feel. There's no shame. There's no shame in saying this is what I feel. There is no shame at all. And there is no shame to shame other people. For you say, then why did you get angry now? No, that's you shaming another person's emotion. Everybody's emotions are valid. So a resilient person accepts their own emotions, and they also accept the emotions of the other person. So your self-esteem is intact, you're setting your personal goals, and you're being optimistic. Let me end with this quote. It says, the end, and it's on my last slide, the rights of others. I leave that with you. Thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. It's a pleasure sharing with you. I will take your questions at this time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Priscilla. Thank you. I wish we had more time, because I could actually see you rushing through the slides. But Absolutely. Even in that, we took away, yes, I could see you rushing through the slides, but we took away so much. And then I can see the feedback and the comments pouring in. And okay, Vivian is saying, nice to have you, Ma. We can hear you, Ma. Thank you. Okay, so if I took so many points, and I'm just going to share mine. And please take note. You can go ahead and ask your questions in the chat room. And if you like to be unmuted, please raise your hand so that our IT officer can unmute you, and then you can ask your question directly. Or you can just throw in your questions in the comment section so that our speaker here can quickly respond. So you talked about leadership starts from within, and then leading, you have to start by leading yourself first. And the leadership is not about the charisma, but understanding what you're doing and where you should be. You also talked about, that if you lose your internal battle, you also lose the people you're leading. And that's also very, very crucial in leading people. So leadership actually starts from winning it first in the mind, winning the argument, winning whatever it is you're presenting or you're proposing, so that you don't lose the people that you're leading. And then you also mentioned that we're not in competition with our team members, and that true nobility lies in being superior to our former self. Interestingly, we are at Impact World Leadership Initiative, where our 2020 Leadership Training Conference is actually on. And we had a session before yours this evening, and your session just seems to be like the icing or the cream topping on all the topic, because what we had with the session we had earlier today also talked about some aspects of leadership, and I can see you bringing other aspects of leadership to the fore on how we can now lead with our mind, having address other areas of leadership. I'm sure we have taken a whole lot from your session this evening on other aspects of leadership, so that being resilient, the ability to adapt, the ability to prepare. I'm waiting for your questions. Do we have questions? I'm just trying to summarize my own notes. I'm sure a lot of us took notes and we have questions to ask.
Yeah, I get that, and honestly, I wanted to say that a lot of times you see people say, "Oh, I like this leader. I don't like this one. I like this one. I don't like this one." And I don't know if any of us heard the story of the bank manager who threw a stapler at his subordinate at work. So you see, sometimes as leaders, we don't understand that when people misbehave, it's because they have not been able to take all these filters and dealt with their own personal challenges. Because you are one person, you are that same one person who needs to sort out your studies, who needs to sort out you have issues in your family. Some are from separated homes, some are from dysfunctional homes, some are from homes that are not even supportive of one another, where there's sibling rivalry. Some are from parents that are, some have challenges at home with a sick parent, a sick mom, a sick sibling. So you see, you have all of this, and then your relationship, maybe your relationship is not working, or maybe your partner is cheating. You have that going on. You also probably have some financial challenges going on, where you don't have enough money to sort yourself out, and then you have other responsibilities, maybe church, maybe fellowship on campus, and then you have this also. You're one person. You're not a multiple of people, and you're expected to still give your 100% in all of these areas. Okay, so it is very important for you to say to yourself that I am one person, and I'm going to put everything into perspective per time, such that I'm always just winning with people, and then it's a win-win situation. When you hurt another person, sometimes you feel better, but this is what happens. There is a ripple effect of you feeling even much more terrible after you initially felt good for speaking to that person in that manner. There is something that just comes and says, and makes you even feel worse than before you did what you did. So yeah, I would encourage that you take this personal journey on before you can put yourself out there. Somebody who is a sick person cannot donate blood. You have to donate to yourself first.
Mm-hmm. Okay, there's a question for you, Priscilla, from Ifure. When other people dump their toxic sandbags on us, how do we handle that?
Let me answer that with the analogy that I gave, in my audio. I said that for a city to be conquered, and I love to use the medieval times in my analogies. That's because these were the times that real battles were fought, where they sharpened their sword and they did all of that. Now, if you go to a town, irrespective of how poor a village is, the most beautiful place in that town or in that small whatever it is would be the king's palace, right? That's because that's the most important person in that community. All right. And you also find out that if there is war, the last place to capture is the palace and the king that resides in the palace. If there is a very poor farmer who has been summoned by the king, naturally you see that the farmer will not go in his farm clothes. The farmer will go back home, get dressed, clean up, and then change his clothing to go and see the king, except he's a captive, except he's been held under captivity, or probably he's been arrested. But naturally, there is that reverence for the palace. That is why I say to you that your mind is your palace. Everything can go wrong in the world. Everything can happen. But that place must be preserved. So when other people are dumping on you, you're saying to yourself, my mind is a palace, not here. You are putting yourself far away, like you do not go into the mud because that person is trying to dump on you. It is your responsibility to either receive more to your own sandbag or emotional sandbag, or to say that, you know what, I'm full, or I'm trying to empty mine, I'm not accepting it. So you don't go into unnecessary argument, you don't go into unhealthy conversations, you don't go into toxic relationships, you don't surround yourself with toxic people. You're taking time out, okay, when you are emotionally overwhelmed, pay attention to you. Is your mind filled with the content of emotional sandbag, or you are mindful of your thoughts and you are rejuvenating? I do my mental rejuvenation every day. What do I do? Every single night when I lay on my bed, I'm reevaluating my day. I close my eyes, I take my deep breaths, and I'm saying, what has been added to me today? Who are the people that I have messed up their emotional sandbags today? Okay, I put them down, and then tomorrow I will go and repair it, because repairing other people's sandbag is part of self-care. I hope I've answered your question.
Thank you very much for that robust response. I have another question from Patricia. How do you manage an executive officer who does not take responsibilities, an executive manager who does not take responsibilities?
Okay, so you see, this was what I just taught. When you look at someone and say that this person never takes responsibility, that is your burden right there. That is you not even starting with self-leadership right there, because that's what you've done. You've pointed at that person. You never take responsibility. And if this is what is fueling your thoughts, it will affect your disposition towards that person. You already would produce bile before you even interact with that person. So don't say things like, this person never takes responsibility. Ask yourself, what are the scenarios? How would I have wanted this person to take responsibility? Is this person taking responsibility that I'm not even aware he or she is taking responsibility? Does this person have the capacity to operate in the office in which he or she has been appointed and I am not recognizing it? Is this person motivated by what's going on? Sometimes you see people who are high performance dropping their performance. And a lot of times what we do is that we just write them up to say, you're not even doing well anymore, blah, 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 or this is not fit. Rather than do that, you want to ask the person what's going on. Always know the why. Don't look at the what. We focus on people's behavior. We don't look at their hearts. Look at the heart of the person you're saying never takes responsibility. Is it that the person does not have the capacity to do what he or she is supposed to be doing? Is it that the person has no clue of their roles? Have you what contribution have you done, or how have you equipped the person to function better? That is the way to go. That's the way to lead. Because first of all, what you've done is to conquer the negative narrative about that person, and that is leading from within. That right there is self-leadership.
Well, thank you so much, Priscilla. And for Shino Ogede, I'm sure that also answers your question, because Shino asked a similar question. I have another question from So let me take that quickly. Okay, from Rejoice Akpan. Please, madam, how can one overcome fear that rises from the mind? That's another question from Rejoice. How can one overcome fear that rises from the mind?
Okay, that question is pretty vague. And, you know, in mental health, we often share about automated thoughts, you know, thoughts that just come from within. So I want you to know that your thoughts are not you. Your thoughts do not become same with you until you accept them, until you take ownership of them. So the fact that a thought randomly comes to you, so say for example, you just, a thought just randomly comes to your head that what if so person dies? You then find yourself have that primary or second, you have primary emotion, and then the secondary emotion follows where you say, oh, I'm a bad person, and then you feel bad. No, but you need to separate your thoughts from you, from your person. So I want to first of all ask, what is fueling that fear? There is an underlining, every single fear that we go through starts from us owning, you know, the automated thoughts that are coming within. So you could have a fearful thought, but it does not become yours until you take ownership of it. Except you say, "Oh no, this is me." So you merge yourself with that thought. So you want to separate yourself from that thought first. So, say for example, the fearful thought is, "What if so person dies?" The first thing to do as somebody who is mindful, remember I said, is your mind full or your mindful? So if you're mindful, it shows that you are thinking about what you take a second look at your thoughts. You're thinking about what you're thinking about. So the moment you identify that thought, that the thought has come to you, say to yourself, no, this is not my thought. This is just a random thought that has come from somewhere. Remember the picture of the two people fighting in somebody's head. The moment you separate yourself from that thought, you're asking yourself, what if, so you're usually I talk about thought interruption. What if he doesn't? Or what if she doesn't? So you interrupt with a more positive thought. But if it's something that is consistent, then I would rather that you speak to somebody about it. You know, the more you verbalize or journal, because sometimes you take a look at the thing that you're thinking about, just take a catalog of them. And then if you see that your negative thoughts supersedes your positive thoughts, then you probably might need to talk to somebody. Something is fueling it. And aside something fueling it, something is sustaining it. Something is sustaining those consistent fear. That is if you do not have any form of morbid phobic disorders or anxiety disorders. If you do not have any of these, and this is just some rather irrational fear that is consistent, you want to see how consistent it is, you want to see how regularly it comes, and you want to see what it does impact in your life.
Thank you so much, Priscilla. I think that will be all for tonight. Thank you so much. We're so delighted to have you here. And thank you for sharing your mantra with us. I may not have food to eat, I may not have clothes to wear, or even a place to lay my head. My mind is my palace. In fact, that's my new mantra. I hope we can share that with you. You know, so I can see all the comments, all the feedback and appreciation pouring in from our participants. Somebody here said, wow, what a great neuroscientist you are. Thank you all for your comments, and please be reminded that the Impact Live series continues at the same time, 6 p.m. next week Sunday. I will have yet another speaker. I will be glad to have you again, Priscilla Benjamin-Olaoye, on our Impact Live series. We've had a very, very insightful session and a lot of learning, you know. And that was why I told all our participants to be ready to learn and learn and relearn. And I'm sure we've learned a lot that will help us run our various club, leadership club chapters, and even our personal lives, our personal and professional lives, to be well-rounded human beings. Thank you so much, Priscilla. We're so glad to have you. And I want to wish us all a good evening. Have a great evening. I hope our IT officer can play our anthem as we depart. Thank you so much. Thank you.
I am someone that will make a change. I'm determined. I'll take a step against all odds. Would be strong, impacting my world. And I will make this world a better place in the best way that I can. When tomorrow and forever comes, I'll stand strong. I'll stand strong. We are ready. We are people to make a change. We're determined. We'll take a stand against all odds. We will stand strong, impacting our world. And we will make this world a better place in the best way that we can. When tomorrow and forever comes, we'll stand strong. So we stand strong, 'cause we are ready. And we will make this world a better place in the best way that we can. When tomorrow and forever comes, we'll stand strong. And we will make this world a better place in the best way that we can. When tomorrow and forever comes, we'll stand strong. We are ready. We are people to make a change. We're determined. We'll take a stand against all odds. We will stand strong, impacting our world.
Thank you and have a great evening. Bye.